What's going on, everyone? This is Michael Stewart-Isaacs.
And this is Shemekka Ebony.
And this is your next edition of Sunday Stacks. We are back. We are super excited in regards to just giving you guys some amazing topics and great conversation. And today won't disappoint. We're definitely looking forward to some of what we are looking to talk about in regards to what's going on in culture. I hope the rest of y'all have just been enjoying the rest of the episodes of Sunday Stacks as we are continuing to talk about the things that matter to you. And with that, we're going to go ahead and kick it off. We have an opinion poll, and we're going to go into our opinions. But there was a clip that has been circulating in regards to a sentiment of a person of power, let's say, who was talking about the economy and some suggestions in regards to our wallets and our pocketbooks in regards to being employees and employers. So I want you to listen to this clip and let's get your opinion.
I think the problem that we've had is that we have people decided they didn't really want to work so much anymore through COVID, and that has had a massive issue on productivity. Tradies have definitely pulled back on productivity. They have been paid a lot to do not too much in the last few years, and we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40-50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. I mean, there's been a systematic change where employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment to get that to some sort of normality. And we're seeing it. I think every employer now is seeing it. I mean, there is definitely massive layoffs going off. People might not be talking about it, but people are definitely laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market, and that has to continue because that will cascade across the cost balance.
We've got to bring pain to the economy.
All right. So with that being said, for those who heard, so let me recap. This gentleman was basically saying that for the world economy to be in some place of a better place, I guess, for wealthy people who are employees, or the employment needs to get in line, because we've gotten arrogant over the years because we want better pay, livable wages, the ability to have health care to take care of our families when we're giving majority of our time in life to an employer and to a job. So what are your thoughts when you hear comments like that, Ms. Shemekka?
Well, what comes to mind for me, and I'm so grateful that Roland Martin lifted this up, because it's so important for us to hear these things. These are the things that are happening when they want you to pay attention to what celebrity is doing what this week. These are the things we need to know and be aware of. And I think about this through the lens of a business owner, as well as the lived experience, expertise in being an employee. And the dynamics is, the first thing, I'm grateful that I know that's how this person feels, but he's a representation of according to this, several nations of people that are leading in this way. So these are some of the first thoughts I have in listening to this is time for us to be prepared in our awareness, not to be offended, but to work towards a strategy that would take this power away from them, and you come into spaces where you're more valued as a human being.
Well, I say, as I listened to that, all I heard was a man who wanted to institute a different form of slavery through employment. I saw somebody who was willing to see people suffer just to get them in line, as if there's some level of human dignity and decency that shouldn't be given to people who are giving their hard work, sweat, blood, and tears to people who are literally profiteering from it. Now, I'm a person who isn't mad at the notion of capitalism, but what I see too often is, like I said, this felt like this man was talking about slavery, right, essentially, when it comes to employment.
Intentional
And,
layoffs.
I've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years. I've had to go back and work at jobs. I've had to work careers. I've had to work part-time just to keep and learn how to survive and navigate businesses. You can get loans, you can find opportunities, but the opportunity, especially as an African American in America, has just recently just become more rewarding. But at the same time, I see so many limitations sometimes in the marketplace when you yourself are trying to get away from just being the person someone's trying to, earn off of, but essentially you're the wage earner, and now we're trying to turn the tables with entrepreneurship. But with that, we also have to start businesses that employ people, because that's what scaling's all about, right? So, this is my first thoughts, is like, we have to start. One, I want to commend all the people out there who are talking financial literacy, learning about entrepreneurship, real estate, ownership, stock markets, etc., because essentially that's what we need to be, talking to our community and culture more about. I think about the Fearless Fund, who recently been attacked for what they've been trying to do to combat, these practices that have excluded us from the ability to become business owners and entrepreneurs and people. So I look at all these different ways that we can start to combat, these type of thinking. But again, we have to see where we can start to really educate and give people an opportunity to see how they get there. What's your...
I think most immediately about the Black Innovation Alliance, thinking about the clapback. This is an example of what the power of the clapback can do to address this, not only as employees, but also do the wildest thing possible. Take the leap into entrepreneurship, and that way you can become the representation of an employer as you scale, because we don't want to stay in entrepreneurship. We want to scale and grow, and we're going to be employers as we grow. So thinking about that, we have to consider, who do we want to be? What kind of leader do we want to become? And who do we want people to be drawn to when it comes to our leadership style? And the example that you heard in that recording is not an example for sustainability for a society and workforce that has well-being as a priority and collaboration.
Yeah, I agree. I think we just have to open our eyes and realize that people don't have your best interest when it comes. They just want your time and energy, and we're all in a unique place right now because we're looking at the student loan debts not being forgiven. I mean, when we talk about the economy, all the different things we have to look at that's coming out during the economic slate, and you hear this kind of rhetoric where someone is out here talking in a way that's just so flagrant, that means they're willing to truly hurt your family, your cost structure, what you pay for something at the grocery store, all the investment that people who own real estate, even people who think they're doing pretty well, are going to start to feel the pinch and the pain because they're willing to squeeze it all out of us due to all these different setbacks COVID caused in regards to the borrowing and the giving of money. I mean, we really have to get into why these interest rates are changing and understand, like, when it comes to your job, we have strikes going on right now, in the automotive industry, because people are hurting out here, giving their all, and they're not seeing their piece of the American dream or the wealth that they're helping to generate. And I think comments like this just show you how people could be so abusive to that type of, practice that capitalism has fostered.
Yes. It'll make you second guess taking off time for yourself. It may make you second guess the well-being of your family and their care of emergencies that come up. But, that's in the well-intentioned way. This is the clapback time. You have an opportunity to stand in your power now and not allow yourself to be reactive to these things as this pressure comes, because the pressure's coming. It's coming to your chest. It's coming to your breathing. You're going to feel it in your neck, in your back. So we need to prepare now, be intentional and strategic in our preparation and not our reaction to what lies ahead.
So with that being said, I hope, that opens your eyes to some of why we have to continue to be resilient, both in the economy as well as our entrepreneurial practices. That's ownership, that's investing, and that's understanding how to scale, and that means employ people to help them grow and take care of their families. So with that being said about families, oh my goodness, Ms. Shemekka, lately the news headlines have just been going crazy. I have to speak on it. Particularly, I'm a fan of hip-hop. People know me, Hip-Hop Wall Street, all those types of things. I still love the culture. Though I'm about business and entrepreneurship, I still love the culture. But most importantly, I love the family. And when I found out that Remy Ma and Papoose Somehow I separated or no longer a thing. My heart was broken. And I want to know what is going on in culture. What is going on with these people who you think look like they have love, caring, and have figured it out, turning to the side that ends up allowing people to get to the position of divorce? What's your thoughts?
There are several reasons why we find ourselves on a pathway with broken relationships that are hidden in the closet, but front facing to be something different. And until we can get more naked with ourselves, which is very hard to do when you are a celebrity or in the public eye, especially we got to start with getting naked with ourselves, being real, stripping down our layers, addressing our desires, our things that are not healthy for us that we're holding on to. In these cases, these are what people have considered black love or the perfect relationship. Stop putting people on pedestals. Those are things that come to mind, like cut it out. Because that invites challenges because of the energy of who they are. It will welcome challenges to knock them off or to be replaced. So those vulnerabilities are amplified when you're not communicating in relationships. But there's so much as to why I was interested or invested in being a solution for these situations like this in relationship.
Yeah, well, I think my first thought is who's praying for these marriages? Like when I look at someone like Papoose and Remy Ma breaking up from a cultural lens, I then think to myself, well, we saw Jay-Z and a Beyonce weather the storm through their music, making music about their infidelities and their issues. And you were like, oh, people were like rooting for it to be done. But then they worked it out. You saw some limited things we've heard with Jada and Wills and different people. Mm-hmm. But we have to sometimes celebrate these marriages that are trying to stay in there, even if they have whatever arrangements or entanglements or whatever people want to call it. Ultimately, we got to start redefining what we think of what it means for two people to be comrades, to be in this spousalship together. Like, it is levels of business. That's why we definitely talk about Sunday stacking, but definitely it's also about how do we bring the prayer back to these situations where we pray for these people in a way that we start to pray for marriage to be a new thing that's healthier. And when we look at divorce, we start to look at that in more healthier ways. So,
Something that I think is worth saying is the power of wanting to belong. And when you get to the point where you feel pushed away in your intimate relationship and no longer feel belonging there, then you do pursue it elsewhere in other ways to fulfill that void. And so communication is a big factor as to whether or not someone is affirmed in their belonging. And when that has an error or a challenge in it or is disrupted, it opens a wedge for other things to come in and other voices to gain power where your partner is supposed to have that intimate ear.
That's deep now, And for those who don't know, I am married to this lovely voice that you hear. This is Miss Stewart-Isaacs. But I say that to say just, when I think about marriage, both of us have the background of understanding what it means to be divorced. Mm-hmm. We tried it the first time. It wasn't what we wanted it to be.
Thank God for substitute teachers.
Substitute teachers, right, respectfully. And then they come back, and if you do try it again, you put yourself in a position where you can truly learn from the mistakes you've made. But sometimes even when you try to go back with the old person, you can't because y'all can't forget the mistakes that have been made. So sometimes it does work out with the next person who may have either gone through similar things or is trying to re-improve themselves.
Hopefully.
And that's the hope. And even if Remy Ma and Papoose or anybody else that's in a couple a ship that we think is perfect or you think is out there and they doing it together, I pray for yours to hang together. If it is going to a place of divorce, do it in a respectful way. Do it in a way that doesn't have to break each other down, get violent or any of those kind of things, because we need to improve how we move in our dynamic. Nobody owns anybody. Right?
Yeah, the journey into co-parenting after divorce is a whole nother add-on to the divorce perspective. For those that may be divorcing and have no children. You just may be splitting some property and maybe even pets, which are just as close. So there's some sensitive areas that I'm looking forward to lifting up really soon in our divorce conversations and lifting a journey of divorce talk. We're going to be doing some virtual sessions for 6 weeks, really hitting those things that'll help us heal and work through where we are in relationship to divorce, whether you're a survivor, whether you're considering it, whether you've gone through it. Even if you've gone through it a few times, no shame, no shade. Come, let's learn, let's unpack it so that you don't have to repeat it and you can find your forever love no matter what you've gone through and no matter how long it's been. That is going to be starting October 8th, so definitely go check that out. Get your virtual tickets at Shemekka.com. We will be doing in-person ones. We will want to build relationship virtually so that we're not waiting. So this first session kickoff will be, how do you define safe space after divorce?
Excellent. This is amazing. Wow. So what we'll do is we'll put the links in the chat. You all here on different platforms, particularly we love YouTube. We want you to like and subscribe,
yes.
But we will put these links in the
description too.
Description, yes, and it'll allow for you all to find all the information you need on regards to what we're going to start talking about with these divorce conversations and talks, and really get deeply into what it really means to prevent divorce, embrace divorce, and life after divorce, and us not having to come to these DV, domestic violence type situations or other things because people can't let go.
Right.
We want to create a different environment, a different culture.
A safe, judgment-free environment so that you come open and ready to learn. But let's have these conversations that people have made taboo. We know what the Bible says about divorce. We know what we've been taught our whole life about it. But what we didn't get prepared for is yours prescriptive journey and what it looks like and feels like for you, and how to have your foundation in faith be the navigator that gets you through it so that you're not bitter, but you're better.
So there we go. So this has been a wonderful episode of Sunday Stacks. You've now learned about how you could potentially divorce your job and be okay.
Yeah.
And you've learned how you might be able to divorce your current spouse and be okay, and maybe come up on a flyer spouse on the next side. But all of y'all got to be patient, and we're going to continue to bring some great topics here at Sunday Stacks. I hope you enjoyed this one. Share with a friend, tell a friend. Again, like and subscribe. And definitely we look forward to bringing you the next episode of Sunday Stacks.
I am brilliant.
You are too.
Today's podcast was brought to you by Sunday Stacks. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube.